Picture this. You're 11 years old. You're standing on a balcony in front of millions of people. The National Anthem starts playing. Cameras are rolling. The whole world is watching. And before anyone else in your family even stops talking, you're already at attention. Back straight, head high, eyes forward, ready. That's not a drill. That's not training. That's not someone telling you what to do. That's Princess Charlotte. And she just stole the entire show at Trooping the Colour. Let me take you inside the moment that had royal watchers reaching for their phones, body language experts scrambling for analysis, and fans calling an 11-year-old girl the main character of the biggest royal event of the year. This isn't just a cute story about a royal child. This is proof that the monarchy's future is in safe hands. This is proof that William and Catherine are raising children who understand duty, tradition, and service. And this is proof that Charlotte in particular is something special. This is Royal News Spot. Let me start with the moment that had royal watchers everywhere, hitting pause and rewinding their screens. The royal family had gathered on the Buckingham Palace balcony. It was Trooping the Colour 2026. The crowds were roaring below. The red arrows were about to do their fly past. It was one of those perfect June days in London, warm, bright, and full of pageantry. Everyone was settling into position. There was chatter, there was laughter, there was the usual family chaos that comes with getting 3 young children to stand still on a balcony. And then the National Anthem began to play. Something remarkable happened. Before anyone else in the family had even stopped chatting, Princess Charlotte was already at attention. Back straight, hands at her sides. Eyes forward. Perfect posture, perfect etiquette, perfect timing. She didn't need to be told, she didn't need to be reminded, she just did it. Instinctively, naturally, like she had been doing it her whole life. Body language expert Darren Stanton watched the footage carefully, and his analysis was striking. He told Hello magazine, and I quote, "Charlotte is leading the way here in terms of how to behave accordingly. She comes across as in control and wanting to make her parents proud." Think about that for a moment. An 11-year-old girl surrounded by thousands of spectators, millions watching on television, the weight of centuries of tradition on her shoulders. And she remembered the protocol before the adults did. That is not training. That is not rehearsal. That is instinct. That is character. That is something that cannot be taught in any classroom or palace protocol session. One ex-user captured the moment perfectly. Princess Charlotte is out there being the main character. And honestly, they're not wrong. Because what we witnessed was not just a child following instructions. We witnessed a young girl who understands what it means to be royal, who understands that when you're on that balcony, you're not just representing yourself, you're representing the institution, you're representing your family, you're representing centuries of tradition. At 11 years old, but the National Anthem moment was just the beginning, because Charlotte's performance on that balcony was not a one-off. It was consistent, it was deliberate, it was masterful. Let me tell you about the wave. Body language expert Judy James watched Charlotte's behaviour throughout the entire event, and her analysis is absolutely fascinating. She told the Daily Express, and I quote, "Charlotte is now officially the one who does all the heavy lifting in terms of sweetly stepping up into a star role at formal royal events like this." Let me explain what she meant by that. While her younger brother Louis was waving away happily, completely carefree, and her older brother George was rationing his waves like he was saving them for something special, Charlotte did something completely different. She leaned forward. She turned to one side. She waved warmly. She paused. She turned to the other side. She waved warmly again. She made sure every single person in that crowd felt acknowledged. Every section, every corner, every single person. She didn't just wave. She connected. She performed the essential royal duty of making people feel seen, of making thousands of strangers feel like she was waving just to them. At 11 years old, Judy James also noted that Charlotte's body language was not that of a child going through the motions. It was deliberate. It was thoughtful. It was the body language of someone who understands that every gesture matters, that every wave carries meaning. And that is something you cannot teach. That is something you either have or you don't. And Charlotte clearly has it. Royal commentator Phil Dampier noticed it too. He told the Daily Express that Charlotte reminds him of Princess Anne, a strong character who can tell her brothers what to do. He also said, and this is worth paying attention to, Winston Churchill once said of the late Queen Elizabeth when she was a child that he had never seen such maturity in someone so young. And Charlotte seems to have inherited that trait from her great-grandmother, to whom she bears an uncanny resemblance. Let that sink in. Winston Churchill, one of the greatest leaders in British history, once said he had never seen such maturity in someone so young. And now, decades later, experts are saying the same thing about Charlotte. That's not coincidence. That's something in the bloodline. That's something special. Now, let me draw your attention to a detail that most people completely missed. And honestly, it's one of the most touching parts of the entire story. Charlotte wore a beautiful white dress with light blue details and a matching blue bow in her hair. Simple, elegant, age-appropriate. Perfect for a young royal on a big day. But the real story was on her wrist. A pearl bracelet. Delicate, simple, and deeply, deeply meaningful. That bracelet belonged to Princess Diana. She wore it on her 1989 tour of Hong Kong. It was one of her favorite pieces, elegant but understated, just like Diana herself. And here's where it gets even more touching. Just days earlier, Kate Middleton wore the exact same bracelet to Peter Philip's wedding. Think about the layers of meaning there. A mother and daughter, both honouring a woman they never got to meet, both carrying her memory forward in the most beautiful way. But Charlotte was not the only one making waves on that balcony. Standing nearby was someone who often goes unnoticed, but who has quietly become one of the most important figures in the modern monarchy. Sophie, Duchess of Edinburgh. She was wearing an off-white belted dress with a delicate floral hat, almost identical in tone to Charlotte's outfit. They weren't just family, they were matching. Purposefully, deliberately, Sophie has been a steady presence in the royal family for over 2 decades. She rarely makes headlines. She does not seek attention. She does not court the press. She simply shows up. She does the work, and she goes home. When Prince Andrew's scandals dominated the news, Sophie quietly continued her work. When Harry and Meghan left the family, Sophie stepped up without complaint. When the monarchy needed reliable, scandal-free royals, Sophie was there, always, consistently, dependably, and at Trooping the Cholera, she stood beside Charlotte like a trusted aunt. Matching, supporting, leading by example. Royal fans noticed. One wrote on X, Sophie and Charlotte together is the duo we didn't know we needed. Another commented, the future of the monarchy is in good hands, because Sophie represents something that is increasingly rare in the royal family. Quiet competence, unwavering loyalty. Genuine warmth. She doesn't need to sell her story to Netflix. She doesn't need to write a tell-all memoir. She doesn't need to give dramatic interviews. She just lives her life, does her duty, and earns her place in the family through years of consistent service. And now she is passing that example on to Charlotte. Now let's talk about something that royal watchers have noticed for years, something that was on full display at Trooping the Kahlua. Charlotte keeps her brothers in line. One ex-user wrote, "A natural at keeping her brothers in line." Another commented, "Charlotte is the one who tells George and Louis what to do. She has that energy." If you have followed the Wales family over the years, you have seen this pattern. Charlotte gently correcting George, Charlotte taking Louis by the hand, Charlotte stepping into the role of the responsible older sister. At 11 years old, this is not a child who is overwhelmed by her position. This is a child who is embracing it, who is growing into it, who is already understanding what it means to be a leader in her family. Phil Dampier confirmed this observation. He said Charlotte is a strong character and able to tell her brothers what to do. That is the same description used for Princess Anne, the hardest working royal, the one who keeps everyone in check, the one who tells the truth to power. And here's the thing, Anne didn't become that person overnight. She grew into it over decades of service. But Charlotte is already showing the same qualities, the same confidence, the same ability to lead. If Charlotte grows up to be anything like her great aunt, the monarchy will be just fine. And then there's the comparison everyone's been making, the one that carries the most weight, the one that means the most. Winston Churchill once said of the young Queen Elizabeth that he had never seen such maturity in someone so young. Phil Dampier believes Charlotte has inherited that same trait. He also noted that Charlotte bears an uncanny resemblance to her great-grandmother. One ex-user put it simply, Charlotte is a mix of QE2 and Diana. Think about that statement. Queen Elizabeth for duty and stability. Princess Diana for warmth and connection. If Charlotte can embody both, the monarchy will have something truly special. Because here's the reality. The monarchy has been through a lot in recent years. Scandals, departures, betrayals, public skepticism, and through it all, the institution has survived. But surviving is not the same as thriving. Thriving means having a next generation that understands the weight of the crown, that respects the institution, that is willing to carry the burden. And Charlotte, at 11 years old, is already showing all of those qualities. So what does all of this mean for the future of the royal family? It means the Wales children are being raised right. It means the monarchy is in good hands. It means the next generation is ready. Prince William and Catherine have made a conscious decision to give their children as normal a childhood as possible. They go to regular school, they play sports, they have friends who call them by their first names, but they are also being prepared for their future roles. And Charlotte in particular seems to understand what is expected of her. She does not complain, she does not hide, she steps up at 11 years old. The contrast with other royal children who struggled under the weight of expectation could not be more stark. Charlotte is not struggling. She is thriving. She is leading. She is already becoming the Princess Royal that her great-aunt Anne has been for decades. That is not just good parenting. That is good monarchy. That is the institution evolving and growing. That is the future taking shape before our eyes. So here is what we learned from Trooping the Colour 2026. Princess Charlotte stood at attention before anyone else. She waved to every section of the crowd. She kept her brothers in line. She wore Diana's pearl bracelet. She matched outfits with Sophie. And fans called her the main character at 11 years old. The future of the monarchy is not just about William and Catherine. It is about George, Charlotte and Louis. And if Charlotte continues on this trajectory, she will be one of the most beloved royals of her generation. Because here's the thing, the monarchy doesn't survive because of ceremony or pageantry or tradition alone. It survives because of people. People who understand the weight of the crown. People who are willing to carry it. People like Charlotte. So here is my question for you. What was your favourite Charlotte moment? Standing at attention? The Diana bracelet? Waving to the crowd? Or keeping her brothers in line? Drop it in the comments. I read every single one. Subscribe to Royal News Spot, because the future of the monarchy is bright, and her name is Charlotte. This is Royal News Spot. The Crown, uncovered. See you in the next one.